Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Fixing Movie Plotholes. I have someone very special with me here. I have Mr. Burns, or as you may know him, Bobby Burns.
Excellent.
Hello.
Hey, Bobby. How's it going?
Hey, what's up, man?
Thanks so much for being here and taking the time out of your busy Cinema Skins schedule as well. Yeah, for those of you, most of you probably know him from his YouTube channel, but if you don't, you'd also know him from the work he does on Cinema Sins, where he covers a whole category of videos about like how to make a Quentin Tarantino video, where you find out about really creepy foot fetishes that Quentin Tarantino had.
And finally, the last thing you need to make a movie on par with a Tarantino film is constantly shoot your actress's feet.
Yes, I knew it existed, but until I started actually cutting the films down to see those parts, I didn't really realize to what extent the foot fetish was a thing.
I know, it's like, it's not until you see them all you're like, yeah, he's working through something there. How long does it take you to do those videos? Because
yeah, it totally depends. Like the dystopian future one, I hadn't seen a lot of those, so that one took me a week worth of just watching, and then the editing didn't take that long on that one. But the Tarantino one, I had seen all of those movies several times, so I was able to do that whole video in about 2 days. So it just totally depends on which genre if I've seen a lot of stuff in that genre already.
Yeah, totally. Well, for anyone who doesn't know, Fixing Movie Plot Holes, we come up with popular plot holes in various movies. You guys have actually mentioned a lot of these in the comments, on the Facebook and the Twitter accounts, and this is where I present to Bobby fan theories that are attempting to fix those plot holes. Some of them are better than others, and Bobby here is the judge. He gets to decide which ones are valid and which ones are not. Okay, so, are you ready, Bobby?
I am very ready.
Alright, so The Matrix. We all know The Matrix, and many people will say that the entire 3 movies are just a giant plot hole, but never mind about that. We're talking about one in particular. You know at the beginning where like Neo wakes up and like all the plugs burst from his head and that robot swoops down and it grabs him by the throat and it just kind of flushes him down the toilet so that Morpheus can get him. And you're like, why didn't it just break his neck? If the Matrix can detect whenever someone wakes up from the Matrix, just snap their neck. Just snap the neck of anyone who wakes up immediately, and you got no problems. Why would they just flush him down the toilet, assuming, like in James Bond villain style, just assuming that it all went to plan, allowing this huge resistance to exist? Well, in the second movie, they did try to explain that with the architect guy, where he's like, we allow the One and the Matrix and Zion and all that to exist because we need to have an illusion of choice, blah, 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 blah. So he was kind of saying, like, they can't stop people from waking up. It's their way of managing people waking up. Mm-hmm. But still, just break everyone's neck, and there's no problem. Like, problem solved.
Although the transport process has altered your consciousness, you irrevocably remain human. Ergo, concordantly, vis-a-vis. You know what? I have no idea what the hell I'm saying. I just thought it would make me sound cool.
So here's the fan theory. You know how the architect mentions to Neo, he says, if you don't do what I say, we'll kill everyone in Zion, and there'll be a system crash in the Matrix, so all of humanity will be wiped out. So theory is, if it's possible for there to be a Matrix system crash killing everyone connected to the Matrix, then they would probably need a backup supply of humans, like in Zion, so that if that ever happened and they lost all their power supply, go down to Zion, grab a whole bunch of humans, plug them back in, and you're rebooted, you're ready to go. Do you reckon that's a good theory as to why they didn't just snap everyone's necks? Because they want to have like a backup power source?
I mean, I think that makes sense. I think, now that I'm thinking about it, isn't that kind of what the movie even says? Like, obviously because they're allowing him to do the stuff that he's done because they need it, but isn't just that enough to say that, like, oh yeah, they're letting him do that, so they're obviously giving them enough free will in Zion or whatever. So I think that totally makes sense that they would need the backups for the crash. Yeah,
actually,
totally.
You're right. I think the movie does say that.
Yeah. It's kind of it's kind of just saying it for you.
Yeah, he does, because he says to Neo, he's like, if you do what I say and go through the other door, we'll wipe out Zion, but you can pick people from the Matrix to repopulate it. So they always want to keep people there. They just don't want them to get too numerous, so they come
Yeah.
wipe them out and use the one to repopulate. So yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
so-
They do say that in the movie.
Yes, I don't know.
So that's
what
not
that-
even a plot hole. Wow. I think that's the first time that's ever happened. You know.
You haven't answered my question.
Yes, I did. You see, what
You haven't answered my...
I'm trying. You just need to let me talk.
Why am I here?
Would you shut up?
I know there's people probably shouting in the comments now. It's like, why are you talking about that and not the ending? Because nobody gets the ending. The answer is, there's no theory for that.
Yep, it's
There's
just
no
a terrible,
explanation for it.
terrible ending.
If I were you,
Bite your tongue. Bite it.
I would hope that we don't meet again.
Why'd you say that? I told you to shut up. I told you to shut up!
Alright, second one. You've seen Days of Future Past, yeah?
Yes, I have.
Absolutely. Well, we all love the Quicksilver scene where he's running on the walls and all that. Well, when he runs fast and everything sort of slows down from his perspective, he starts playing his Walkman, and his Walkman's going, well, if everything else slows down except for him, how come his Walkman isn't playing in like super slow motion as well? So there's the plot hole, but people saying, well, this is just my theory actually, because I'm a Star Trek fan, but are you a Star Trek fan?
I am not. I have nothing against it, but I've not really watched into them other than the reboot. I'm a big Star Wars fan, so.
No! No!
Well, we won't go down the Star Wars versus Star Trek route. That's it. Well, the theory for that is sort of like in Star Trek, they've got warp drive. When they go like super fast, they call it warp drive, and warp 9's like the fastest. But the idea of that is not so much that the ship is moving really fast, but that it can like warp space around it, and that creates a bubble in which it can bend space and it moves faster. So the idea is Quicksilver, when he runs faster, similar things happen, where like a little bubble where time and space warps around him. So if the Walkman's within that bubble, then he can run fast and it will play at normal speed according to him. And that would also explain, like, if that wasn't the case, as soon as he ran fast, if he wasn't like in a little pocket, like a bubble there, he would just rip right out of his own clothes
Yeah, that's.
and he'd just be running around nude. And he'd just like stop and his clothes would just fall in a pile.
To what extent would the bubble like extend around him though? Because like if you had an iPod that could play music, could you do other things if they're stuck to him? I don't know. I always have a problem when someone can run super fast in something because it never makes sense to me. Like you were saying with the clothes or something like that. Like the clothes would just not be there anymore if they were going that fast.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know, because they never said anything about it in the movie. Like, they never even referenced that as a thing. But I guess if you took it as anyone who can run super fast in superhero films has that kind of thing, I mean, I guess I could go with that one.
It is also like Superman, like with his super speed, when he touches someone, it sort of cloaks them in this sort of field that he has, which is why, like, if you've seen the original Superman movie with Christopher Reeve, like Lois Lane is like flying out next to him and they're just touching fingertips, you know, and she can like fly right out next to him, and as soon as they break fingertips, she starts to fall and Christopher Reeve goes down and gets her again.
Gotcha.
So like maybe with Quicksilver it's kind of like that, because he does grab Magneto. Remember, he's like, I'll brace your neck so that you don't get whiplash. So maybe it's a similar thing there. Otherwise, when he went to super speed, he just decapitate Magneto as well.
Okay, yeah. I guess 'cause if they did do that, they kind of showed that he does have a thing like that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so either
Yeah.
it's like anything he touches, like the Walkman touching him, or him carrying someone, or the bubble's big enough to contain someone, but I don't know, it's never really specified.
Even whenever I watched that scene, I didn't even think of it like the guy was actually listening to the music. I just assumed that was just music they played over the film, not supposed to be like he was actually listening to that. I just assumed he was listening to something else, and they played it on top of for cinematic effect. I mean, I don't know though.
I think he does put headphones on, but you could say that if those are his headphones and his Walkman, he could have recorded it super fast, so that when he goes to speed, it's normal.
Oh yeah, that's
That's another option, I guess.
Yeah, I like that one. I think
All right,
I like
let's
that
go
one
with
better.
that one. That's
Yeah,
a more likely one. Actually, that will make sense, yeah, because his whole outfit was sort of custom, wasn't it?
Yeah, because if it's all of his stuff, he didn't just find it. That totally makes sense that he would have recorded those for whenever he does that kind of scene. Because obviously he had it specifically for that. It's specifically for running. I like that one.
Excellent.
Okay, this one is good old Indiana Jones, and this is a pretty common complaint about Indiana Jones. I think Cracked had an article about this. I think it was on Big Bang Theory.
I defy you to find a story problem.
All right. Indiana Jones plays no role in the outcome of the story. Like, if he weren't in the film, it would turn out exactly the same.
I see your confusion. You don't understand. Indiana Jones was the one in the hat with the whip.
No, I do. And if he weren't in the movie, the Nazis would have still found the Ark, taken it to the island, opened it up, and all died. Just like they did.
Oh, wow, yeah. I've literally never thought about that.
Serious?
Now that I'm picturing it. Yeah, I've never thought about that.
Oh man.
I've seen Indiana Jones. I've seen each one of them probably 2 times. I'm not like the biggest Indiana Jones fan. I like it, but
it's true when you think about it, like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Same with the Holy Grail. You drink the wrong one, you die. Doesn't matter. You know.
Well, that's true. But because I was thinking, because he was the one who found the Grail, but it was actually the German girl who found the Grail. So even if he wasn't there, they still would have found it, and this stuff still would have happened.
Wait a minute. No, the Nazis were digging in the wrong place. The only reason they got the Ark was because Indy found it first.
Actually, they were only digging in the wrong place because Indy had the medallion. Without him, they would have had the medallion and dug in the right place.
And Crystal Skull as well. Like,
I
got so many problems with that ending. Like, but I actually think we could discount Crystal Skull from this, because nothing in that ending should have happened the way it did. You know, like you can say with the Ark of the Holy Grail, like the Nazis die because it's kind of like supposed to be like the wrath of God against the Nazis or whatever, so like that's why they die. But with Crystal Skull, the alien wanted someone to return the head, and Kate Blanchett returns the head.
The person did exactly what the alien wanted them to do, so he repaid them by blowing her into little tiny pieces.
Yeah, blowing her brain up through her eyes. There's no reason that should have happened. Like, Indiana Jones is lucky that she stole the head from him, because he was going to do that himself. Then it would have been his brain exploding. So there's no reason any of that should have happened the way it did.
Not only did you ruin Raiders for me, you may have ruined the whole franchise. Except for the 4th one, which was bad before you got your mitts on it.
So we're talking Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. Indiana Jones has no influence on the outcome of either of those movies. The theory is that maybe since like Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Holy Grail, they're both like religious items. The theory is maybe Indiana Jones is kind of like a Moses sort of type. Where it's like he's sort of chosen to do this task. Like, you know, like with Moses, okay, I want to free my people from Egypt. I don't need you to help do that, but I want you to be like the human representative and to witness these events. Likewise with Indiana Jones, he's like, okay, I want to kill these Nazis for whatever reason. So he's like, Indiana Jones's role, like he was chosen for that not because his role wasn't to like kill all the bad guys. His role was to facilitate events happening in that certain way and to be a witness to events happening in that certain way. Kind of like how Moses was with the 12 plagues and all that. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's the will of the Force that... It's the will of the Force.
That's an interesting one. That's pretty interesting.
It's a stretch. It's like the classic Star Wars cop-out line of, it's just the will of the Force. That justifies any...
Exactly. Okay, so are we just sticking to the first and the third?
Yeah, because Indiana Jones 4, the whole ending shouldn't have happened. Second one, he does affect the change because he frees all the kids. So I don't think that's a big enough explanation.
I know. I think it's like, I get it because it is the 2 religious articles in the films, but I think that's just like a huge stretch for the reason, because I mean, though he doesn't directly affect the ending, he does everything leading up to the actual end thing. Like, he's... I mean, obviously, they still end up with the thing, but a lot of times, they wouldn't end up with that item unless he had done the things leading up to it, even though he's not the one who ultimately kills them. So I almost feel like he does have an effect on it.
Actually,
to a certain extent.
Because those movies always start with the bad guys approaching him, but he doesn't know they're the bad guys yet. And he's like, hey, we need to find this item. And then they turn out to be Nazis. So like, if he was never around, they probably wouldn't find him in the first place.
Exactly. So I
think it's a legitimate plot hole. Yeah. Okay, so Indiana Jones is done.
Yeah.
Wait. If it wasn't for Indiana Jones, the Ark would never have ended up at the warehouse. That's true. He collected and delivered the Ark to the proper authorities for filing.
Like a hero!
Yes!
Although technically, Indy was supposed to take the Ark to a museum to be studied, he couldn't even get that done.
Oh.
Okay, the next one is kind of more of a question than it is an actual plot hole. Bane's mask. How does he eat?
Just like a little straw.
Yeah, he's just having protein drinks all the time, you know?
Oh, that's awesome.
But there's so many questions about that mask. There's so many stuff they don't explain. Like, they say in the movie that the mask holds, like, the pain at bay from getting bashed up. But what is that gas? Is that, like, morphine? Where's it coming from? Does he have a little gas tank on his belt? Like, how does it...
that's what exactly I was thinking when you first started talking about that. Because, like, it doesn't make any sense that it's just a tiny piece of rubber on the back of his head going to, like, 4 tubes on the front. And the space where his mouth would be, there's not enough space to, like, store anything in it. Like, maybe something tiny, but like he never shows him putting anything in it. I
think it's one of those cases where, I mean, because as we all know, Nolan tries to make it more real than the comics, but that's actually a case where I think moving away from the comics really hurt it, because Bane in the comics, he has that venom, that super steroid drug venom, and they got rid of that. But if they had included venom, that would have explained a lot of stuff, like what is it that's going in, why he doesn't need to eat, because maybe venom is all he needs. So by moving away from that, I think they created more problems in that instance.
Yeah, because in the original, doesn't he have like tubes that go down his arms and everything, so it you can see where it's feeding into something?
Yeah, it pumps into like veins all around his body.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that would make way more sense. That's pretty funny, dude. I just picture him sipping a little protein drink after breaking Batman's back.
Well, there's not really an elaborate theory here. Basically, it's just that he takes the mask off, takes a bite of the sandwich, breathes a bit more, takes a bite of the sandwich, breathes a bit. This isn't a very good one.
Yeah, because on that, even just when that tiny bit was off, he was in so much pain. Like, I don't think someone could do that on a day-to-day basis for 3 meals a day and still be alive. He was in so much pain for just those couple seconds when the little one tube unhooked.
And the guy does ask him at the beginning, he's like, if I pull that off, will you die? And he doesn't really answer, he just says it'd be extremely painful for you. But I think that means yes, he would have died if he took it out. Yeah. So, but even if they're like feeding him intravenously, how can he get as jacked as he is? You know, because venom's not a thing. So, yeah. So
maybe that's the thing where it's just implied that that's what is in the mask. Some kind of thing. So he's breathing in as opposed to being injected with the venom in that mask. They just never specifically mention it. They just assume that people who read the comic books or watched the show or something would already know that.
Okay. So you reckon that's a legit plot hole, or?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I would say that that's a pretty big plot hole. I don't think that one... I don't think, we could say what you want about it, but I don't think that one can really be solved.
I think so as well, because I mean, if his condition is serious enough that he can barely take a few seconds without wearing that mask, he's not going to be able to eat, you know? Or if he could eat intravenously, he shouldn't look like that. So I think that's just a legit plot hole. They should have made it venom, but would have made it a lot more simple. Okay, so that's 2 fails, 2 passes, I think. Yep. Okay, we've saved the pièce de résistance for last. Star Wars. You're a big Star Wars fan?
Yes, I am.
Okay, me too. Alright, here's the thing. In the prequels, Padme dies during childbirth. And putting aside the fact she probably shouldn't die in childbirth, because it's supposed to be super future where they've got all this amazing technology, putting that aside...
And there wasn't anything really wrong with her other than she wanted to not be alive, even though she was giving birth.
Yeah, other than she was upset.
Yeah.
You know? But in Return of the Jedi, Luke, right before he tells Leia that they're brother and sister, he asks her, he's like, tell me about your mother.
Leia, do you remember your mother? Your real mother?
Just a little bit. She died when I was very young.
What do you remember?
Just images, really. Feelings.
Tell me.
She was very beautiful. Kind. But sad.
Obviously, when those movies were made, the reason Luke is asking her that is because he wants to know about his mother, because they got the same mother, and Padme was not supposed to die in childbirth. She did raise Leia a bit, and that's how she had memories of her. Mm-hmm. So the plot hole is, how could Leia have memories of her as an early child when Padme died like 5 minutes after her being born? The answer is because, obviously the real answer is because George Lucas couldn't figure out another way to do it, so he just killed her off. Obviously that's what really happened. But there's
the only thing that I would think of is that they would have had some kind of recording technology like they have with the holograms, that you never actually see how they're recording it, but that there was some kind of recording of her, or because she did get taken care of by the Organas, or I think that's his name, Bail Organa, wasn't that his name?
Yep.
Yeah, so you taken care of him. I guess obviously he would have known Padme, so because they work together and stuff sometimes. Yeah. So I guess it would just been from him telling her stuff. I don't feel like that she would have actually seen her.
Well, that's because I could find 3 fan theories, and that was one of it, that either Leia pieced it together from what Bail Organa was saying, and since she was a senator, there was probably recordings of her giving speeches and stuff. But I don't know, because there's 3 different theories. I don't know if that one works, because if you're an orphan, you go and research and learn about your kids when you're a teenager, not when you're 1. And the way Leia explains it, she was very young when she learned that. So I don't know if that one's legit. The other one is she was able to remember through the Force. That's completely ridiculous. I'm sorry. That's completely ridiculous. Because, first of all, if it was even possible to do that, to recall memories from when you were a baby through the Force, Luke would have already done that. He wouldn't have needed to ask her. And he was way more skilled at using the Force. So if that was even possible, Luke would have already done that to learn about his mom. He wouldn't even need to ask her in the first place.
Yeah, definitely.
The only other theory that I think kind of works, and a lot of it is fictional, fan fictional, but the pieces are there. The only other option is Padme didn't really die in episode 3. She faked her death. Now, hear me out. Okay, so now you say, well, she had to die, right? Because we saw her die. Well, obviously they could have given her drugs to flatline her and make it look like she died. But then you say, but later on, we saw the funeral and we saw her lying dead in her coffin. But you remember in episode 2, she had a body double that got blown up. Mm-hmm. So if that, after that body double got blown up, they froze the body, the body double, and then they thawed her out and stuck her in the coffin and dressed her as Padme, then you've got fake dead Padme.
Well, there we go. The problem I would have with that is that it was always obvious when it wasn't Padme being the body double, and they showed so many close-ups of her face.
It's very clear
in that part.
It was
and even holding the little junip or whatever, the little necklace Annie made for her, and she was the only one that really knew about that. So I feel like, and then she wouldn't have left that on her body double anyway. That was really special to her, especially because Anakin had just become a Sith. She would have kept that to remember him when he was little.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking, see, this is why it's so fictional, because you have to make it up. But I'm thinking, they could have also given her plastic surgery to make her look more like Padme. But see, the reason I think maybe this theory works is because also, remember Anakin had premonitions of her dying in childbirth. Mm-hmm. And then when she went and confronted him on the volcano planet, he tries to strangle her while she's pregnant with his kids. So after that, if she's this guy's a lunatic, the only way I can be saved from him is if he believes I'm dead, and he said I was going to die in childbirth, so if I die, I die. If not, I'll fake my death, and then he'll never come after me again.
That's okay.
So she could go into hiding as a nanny for the guy who took the kids, so she could still raise Leia, but sort of in secret, but it's a very elaborate theory. But,
so much is required.
Yeah. Because Anakin, he had premonitions of her dying in childbirth, but Yoda did say in Empire Strikes Back, when you look into the future, he says it's always emotion is the future. So through a vision, would he be able to tell the difference between her actually dying or her faking her death? Probably not.
I actually like that, because the part that I always had a problem with was the fact that the robot says that there's nothing physically wrong with her, but then she just dies. And I totally get what you're saying. The more I hear about that, I actually like that a lot. That maybe she did fake. I think that would have been much more interesting.
It would have been much more interesting.
Had a reason for that scene to exist of her dying.
I think, and since Anakin said he did have visions of the birth, she might choose, well, that's the moment where I'll fake my death, because he'll definitely believe it then, because he already saw it. Like I said, it's very, very fictitious. But I think if they wanted, like if J.J. Abrams wanted to go back and rewrite it in, I think you could. There's like enough pieces of that puzzle you could say that maybe that did happen.
And because it is so open, right there, like there's not a, I totally think that could work if you went back and wrote that in. I think a lot of people would be pissed, but I think you could do it.
Excellent.
Well, thanks so much, Bobby, for being an awesome judge on the latest Fixing Movie Plot Holes.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun.
Yeah. And if you want to check out Bobby Burns, you're probably already subscribed to Cinema Sins. You'll see him on there. But check out Bobby Burns' channel. He does a whole bunch, not just movie reviews. He does a whole bunch of other stuff. He does like why certain movies suck videos. What if blank was made by a blank videos? Videos of like, what if Tarantino directed a Disney film? Things like that. Really awesome. Check out Bobby's channel. He's an awesome dude.
Thanks for having me. It was so much fun, dude.
So I'm Bandit. This is Bandit Incorporated. And until next time, I will see you guys in the comments. You guys know him. You love him. He is the one, the only Mr. Sunday Movies.
Holy crap, man. That is like the best introduction I think I'll ever get, ever. That's amazing. Thank you so much. And then this won't live up to that, but I really do appreciate it, building me right up, and then this will just bottom out completely.
Yeah, I did think that.
Yeah. No, that was great, man. Thank you very much. You're very, very kind. And you do amazing work as well, so I'm really happy that we could get together and do this. And